What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, today we're going to review the 2021 Sportster S model. Now, unfortunately, I'm not a big enough YouTuber to get the early invite. I saw several rounds of Harley bringing different people out to ride the bike and talk about it. And I watched those videos just so I could learn a little bit more about the bike myself. However, after riding this bike, I have to say, unless Harley didn't let those people really open this thing up, or the reviewers didn't want to do it in front of Harley, I don't know what would have, kind of been going on in that situation. I gotta say, no one has really driven home the point of how fast this freaking motorcycle is in sport mode. In regular mode, it's still fast, don't get me wrong. But in sport mode, this is literally a sport bike. At first, I was kind of confused when Harley put it on their website under this new sport category, and it's the only bike on there. After riding it, I can see why. Now, I don't know if it's just me or if other motorcycle YouTube channels get these same type of comments, but I get a lot of people asking my opinion on a beginner bike or a first bike, or someone's coming off of a very entry-level motorcycle, say a Rebel 250 or something, and looking to move up, and asking my opinion. One of the things that I worry about is Harley is trying to target newer or younger riders with this motorcycle, which I think it will do that. However, I want to stress the importance of respecting the machine, because this is a bike that can get you hurt pretty quick. And I know it's fun to crack jokes and talk about the size and some other things that we're going to talk about that I'm not particularly a fan of on this motorcycle. However, I really have to stress that this is a performance-driven motorcycle. I would highly recommend getting your feet wet on something else if you don't think you're going to be capable of respecting what this thing can do. I just had to throw that out there as a disclaimer. I'm not responsible or liable for anything that happens to anybody. I've just spent a lot of time on a lot of motorcycles, and I realize how quickly you could get yourself in trouble if you're not an experienced rider on this bike. All right, guys, for those that haven't seen this bike yet, I'm going to give you a quick walk around before we start breaking things down on this bike. I gotta be honest, at first when I saw the pictures and the videos, I didn't love it. I was a little indifferent, and then same thing, this showed up today, or you're gonna see this video probably 2 days from now, but regardless, this bike just showed up at Timms a couple hours ago actually. So the more I look at it, the more time I spend with it, the more I start to like it. There's some things I don't love, and I will point those out, obviously, as we always do. Also, the fact that a lot of people have already had their hands on this bike. I'm not going to go super heavy into the specs. I will say 120 horsepower, 94 foot-pounds of torque, and 504 pounds, I believe, which is the running order weight, so gas, oil, all that good stuff in there. That's what you're going to be riding around at. So by Harley standards, fairly light bike. Also by Harley standards, a ton of power out of the box, which I do want to emphasize. I know we talked about it in the beginning of the video. This bike has got some power. I cannot imagine if some of those shops that do a lot of crazy stuff get their hands on this thing and really uncork it, change the exhaust, let it breathe a little more, tune that engine. I don't know if it's different cam or what's going on in there that makes this bike 120 horsepower. It's the same exact engine as the Pan America that has 150. If there's a way to uncork this thing and get 150 horsepower, that would literally be insane. This bike would be crazy because it's pretty wild as it is. All right, if you've watched any of the other videos, you know exactly where we're gonna start with this tank badge. And I love that people have started commenting, talking about that. That's become a thing. I didn't know how long as a YouTuber it would take for your channel to get a thing like that, but that's ours apparently, starting here and talking about tank badges. I will say I love this one that Harley has done. Just looking at the screen here on the video, it's not really doing justice to the color tone of that graphic. It matches the engine color pretty dang well. Like, it's pretty spot on. Sometimes Harley kind of misses the mark with that, and I'm sure that's hard to do. But I love the graphic they used. I love the color of it. I like everything about it. A tank badge just didn't seem fitting on this bike. It's just so streamlined. I think the painted graphic was the way to go for sure. One of the things I noticed earlier that I didn't love was the gas cap. So I get that it's super convenient not to have a locking gas cap, and I don't really feel like anyone would mess with my gas cap or put anything in there or whatever. But I do like the peace of mind of being able to lock it. I think in a perfect world, it would have a locking option, but it wouldn't lock by default. You know what I mean? That way it's the best of both worlds. For the guys that like to lock it every time, you lock it. For the guys that don't want to have to dig for their key to put gas in their bike, well, you get your way too. Now, while we are up here, I want to talk about this display. So I haven't messed with this display a whole heck of a lot, but I will say that I'm a fan of it. If nothing else, just because if you hook it to your phone, now it doesn't have built-in GPS, but you can run GPS through your phone with this screen, which I think is a great option. So we'll just kind of scroll through the menu here. So obviously, like I just said, you got to have your phone connected for Bluetooth. You've got music, same thing. You're gonna have to have your phone for pretty much everything. But I mean, who doesn't have their phone on them at this point, you know? I just like all the information that's in this screen. I like how bright this screen is. All kind of things you can do on this bike with this screen. And what I'm really hoping, you guys give me your opinion on this. I'm hoping to see this display, this screen type on the rest of the Harley Davidson models. So like, any of the Softails and stuff, I would love to see it on like the Road King, at least the Road King S. I just feel like it's time, man. I get a lot of people really like that analog stuff, but it's gonna be 2022 when the new bikes drop. Like, I just feel like you're behind at that point. If you don't have stuff like this built in with this type of information, you're getting left behind. And I get the argument that, well, it's something else that could break, or when it breaks, it's gonna cost a lot of money. I mean, that's just how things go. Heck, I mean, even my truck, the shifter in it is electronic. I don't love that, but I mean, hey, that's the world we live in these days. So that's the direction it's going. If you're super old school, buy like a Softail standard or something like that with not a lot of bells and whistles on it. I personally want to see this screen on all the other models that don't have the infotainment, but I'm curious what you guys think about that one. Now, same thing with going over all the specs. I'm not gonna go crazy with kind of showing you guys everything that went into that screen, all the different ride modes, etc. Only because this bike has been on YouTube for a few months now, so I feel like that information is out there. We'll move to the front end. They kind of went Fat Bob style almost with that headlight, which I like. I think it fits this bike. It's LED, it works well. Let's see. Oh, I think, I could be wrong, it's hard to tell. I think we may have, no, I think it's halogen. I could be wrong. Those could be LEDs. I need to look that up. But either way, they are bright, so they do look nice. This front tire, again, it's kind of like a Sportster 48 or the Fat Bob, real big beefy tire on the front. Single side brake, however, it is a pretty big rotor. I think it's just, it looks big on this bike. That's probably a standard size rotor, but it looks exceptionally big on this bike. I don't feel like on camera it's translating, but it does look big. It is Brembo, just like all Harley brakes. So I mean, the stopping power's there. I tested it on the test ride, which you guys will see if you stick around to the end of this video. It does have the inverted front end, which I am a fan of. It is adjustable on the front, which I like. Rear suspension is adjustable as well. I'll show you guys that in just a second. So here's a good look at the other side. And as a lot of you have probably noticed by now, you do have forward controls. However, I looked in the parts and accessories catalog before I started shooting this video, and you can get mid controls on this bike. I want to say it was right around 650 bucks or so, somewhere in the neighborhood of 650, 700 bucks to do the mid controls. I'll throw that up on the screen actually right now so you guys can see what it looks like, and then I'll show you the price as well. Now, one of the things I'm realizing now that I failed to do for you guys before I started was I wanted to test this outlet. So it's a USB-C outlet, but I know on the outlet on the Pan America, that was only for doing updates on the bike. You couldn't charge your device. I'm curious if that charges a device. I don't have a USB-C cable with me to try and charge anything, so I can't get that info for you now. If somebody does know, leave me a comment so that way other people will know as well if you can charge your phone or charge whatever you would need to charge with that, or if it's just for updating the software for the screen or the bike. Okay, something else you may have noticed, this seat here, pretty low profile. It looks good. I only did 10 miles on this bike, so I can't testify to how comfortable it is. I didn't notice it being uncomfortable. I just can't imagine it being super comfortable for a long ride, which I don't think people are doing on this bike anyway. And I noticed that there was no passenger seat, no passenger pegs. But when I looked in the parts and accessories catalog, you can in fact get a passenger pillion, a backrest, and passenger pegs for this bike. I'll throw those up on the screen right now just so you guys can see that as well. You can see how it looks, and you can also see the pricing on that. Now, if you notice, it's kind of hard to see because it's hidden. The frame is kind of this tubular design, and then they carried that same theme throughout the swing arm, which I actually like. And I was thinking, you know, when I talked about earlier, one of those shops getting a hold of it that does a lot of performance stuff, may be cool just to like put an aluminum insert in here or something. You could throw some kind of company logo. You could do a lot with this bike, make that look good. Earlier I said that the rear suspension was adjustable, and they've made that very, very easy. You've just got the knob right here, spin it to whatever you need. Oh, it's even got clicks. That's really nice. So that way you kind of know what you're doing. You just back it all the way out one direction or another. It tells you in your owner's manual how many clicks to set it. So that's a really nice feature. Now, don't you for 1 second think we weren't going to address this atrocity here that is your tail lights, turn signal, and license plate holder. Bro, what? Now, step back, look at this bike, pretend that's not on there. I mean, I get everybody's got their own opinions. I don't hate the tail section of this motorcycle by any stretch of the imagination, except for whatever this thing is. Now, I feel like Harley knew people were gonna take it off because it's 3 bolts to get it off. Harley, you should have taken this off before it left the building. Now, I don't have all the answers, but I have an idea that it would have been fairly easy to mold or integrate turn signals into this back cowl section. Now, this little piece does snap out right there, and that's how you put your passenger seat on. But regardless, you still could have put the turn signals in here. I don't think you would have wanted to put the brake light underneath here just for suspension travel purposes. I'm no engineer, but I could spend a little bit of time thinking about this and figure out something way better than whatever this thing is. And then, I mean, I guess what you would do at that point is put one of those license plate holders on the swing arm, which, as you guys know if you watch the channel, I don't love license plates not being centered. I also like them if they have to be on the side. I like them running vertically, but I know that's not legal in some states. So if Harley could have just come out with the normal little Sportster license plate holder coming out horizontally right there. Anyway, I have a hard time imagining any of you guys are gonna like the way that that was done. But if you do, let me know down in the comments. I would be very, very surprised. So another thing I didn't love just in the photos, it's kind of growing on me in person, is this exhaust. Now, I don't love the sound, but like I said in my Pan America reviews, you're gonna have to get over that. It's never gonna sound like a Harley. I don't know what to tell you. The motor is amazing. I think the trade-off is worth it. You know, because it doesn't matter how good your bike sounds. If it doesn't have the performance, then kind of what's the point, you know? So I don't hate the exhaust as much as I did now that I see it in person. I am very excited to see what the aftermarket companies come out with, to see what they can do with that. I personally would like to see a single muffler, you know, so just the 2-into-1 style setup. I feel like that would really clean up the lines of this bike. But one thing I want to mention is, you can see here, that's your actual head pipe right in there. This is your first heat shield, and this is a second layer of heat shield. So not only does it help visually by being black, it also helps with the heat. But today when I rode this bike, it was 75 degrees out, and that exhaust got hot, really, really hot, to the point where when I would come up to red lights, I would just lean the bike over to the left and kind of pull my right leg away from the bike a good bit just to get that heat off. I don't know what can be done about that. I mean, typically with these bikes, you change the head pipe, you let them breathe a little bit better, you put a little better exhaust. That tends to help. But any aftermarket companies that come out with exhaust for this thing, I would recommend you do your research, do your homework on those heat shields, because you're probably gonna need them. This thing was putting off some heat. So YouTube can be a grind sometimes. I do enjoy making these videos, but there's times, you know, editing and doing all that stuff that it's a little bit of a chore, not to sound like I'm complaining, just saying. But point being, times like this definitely make it worth it. I mean, I know I'm late to the party. Like I said in my review, there's been some other YouTubers that got their hands on it first. Well, I'm not in that position. So this is the first bike the first Sportster S that Timms has gotten. It literally just came off the truck. The technician set it up, rode it around the parking lot, and now I'm hopping on it to do a review for you guys. So super thankful to Timms for the ability to do this, and also very thankful for you guys for watching these videos and making this channel successful. This is awesome and very much appreciated. Anyway, getting into the bike itself. So visually, for some reason, the bike does look pretty small to me. Like just standing there looking at it in photos especially, it looks smaller. But riding it, it doesn't feel small. So I think part of that is the forward controls, which I'm more of a mid guy, but I don't hate these right now. They don't feel uncomfortable. Also with the bars, I'm kind of reaching forward a little bit. For those who don't know, I'm right around 5'11", just to give you some reference as far as where you might be on this bike. Anyway, it doesn't feel like it's too small. It feels super comfortable, feels like a normal bike. I mean, doesn't feel like, there's no other Harley model that comes to mind that I could compare it to. I mean, we're definitely not going to compare it to like the Street 750 and the Street 500 and whatnot. And those had the mid controls anyway, but it definitely feels like a unique bike to Harley Davidson. The controls definitely a little foreign, even though I do have some time on the Pan America, and these are the same exact controls that are on the Pan America. I've ridden that bike once, whereas the other controls on other Harley models are pretty standard, and I've ridden every model Harley makes. So those feel a little more at home. I'm sure after some time on this bike, you'd get used to it and whatnot.
Now, kind of getting on the throttle, this thing is fast, like very responsive. That's one thing I want to say. So same engine as the Pan America. However, the Pan America revs really high to me. Like there was like a delay in it. And then I want to say it was around 5,000 RPMs before the power really kicked in. This thing is tuned completely different, meaning as soon as you roll on that throttle, it's there. Instant power, no lag, no delay. Now, one thing I was worried about before, and I always think about on these test rides, but then one of the other technicians pointed out as I was taking off, he's like, hey, don't forget those, brand new bike, brand new tires. So I was looking forward to throwing this thing around in the curves a little bit, but without, kind of wearing these tires in just a little bit more. I don't think we're going to go super hard, but just based on the few minutes I've been on this bike, the power, the center of gravity, there's a lot of things about this bike that make me feel like it would be tons of fun up in the mountains. One being that power that this thing has. Gotta adjust these mirrors. I didn't do that before I took off. I hate not being able to see behind me. I don't know how people ride with no mirrors. I think I did it back in the sport bike days, but no way I could do it now. I at least need a mirror if you're not running two. I get they're ugly, but very necessary, at least for me anyway. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Can you ride with no mirrors? These, I feel like Harley did as good of a job as they could have. I mean, I'm not really sure where else they go. You definitely don't want them like sticking up like the conventional Harley mirrors. I feel like that would be just in the way of your view and look even more tacky visually. Fortunately, the tackiness of this bike is in that tail section, so you don't have to see it when you ride it. I feel sorry for the cars behind me because that thing looks awful. Any of the regular viewers and subscribers have probably already noticed by now we are deviating. We're going a little farther than the normal test ride route, and that's because this is something I've never ridden. So I am curious. I do want to ride it more for selfish reasons, but I do want to get a little bit better feel. Now, this bike is currently for sale here at Timms, so if you're interested in it, give them a call. But because of that, I don't want to rack up too many miles, so we're going to shoot for 10. Not nearly as many as I would like to do, but also not an absurd amount to put on a bike that's actually for sale. One thing I'm noticing is I don't really want to take it out of sport mode. I mean, sport mode is so fun, so I will change it here in just a second, just so I can give you guys some good feedback as far as how it feels in the regular just road mode or street mode or whatever you want to call it. But I will say sport mode is a good time. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like I would want to leave it in sport mode all the time. I know some cars have that option too, where it's got a sport mode. I drove a BMW X3 Sport or whatever for a while, and it had the sport mode, and just so much more fun. Regular was okay. Economy was terrible. All right, let's play with these modes just a little bit, and we'll kind of see, because we've got a car in front of us anyway. We can't really do anything too wild. So we'll take advantage of this. I mean, still peppy, still responsive, and still fast. Like, even in the different mode, it's fast for being just on a regular setting. So guys, if you're watching this video thinking about getting this as a first bike, or moving up from something a lot smaller, I know I said it before, but I really want to stress, respect this machine. Don't ride over your head. I think it's going to be really easy to want to play with this throttle. As you can see, I mean, I'm doing it myself. This is a fast bike. Hesitant to leave that speedo shot in, but we'll say that the speedo has potentially been altered just to make the video look cooler and may not represent the actual speeds. How about that? We'll go with that. But back to what I was saying, you could definitely make this a beginner bike. I mean, the power is only there when you ask for it, just like your car. Most people's car will do 100 miles an hour. That doesn't mean you have to go 100 miles an hour. Same thing with these modes. If you're newer or a little less experienced, then keep that in mind and maybe, stay away from sport mode for just a little while. Because I do think that's what Harley's doing with this bike, is they're aiming this at newer and or younger riders, and I think it's great for that. I mean, aesthetics, I definitely don't call myself an old school Harley guy by any stretch of the imagination. I can appreciate a little bit of everything, but I get it. It's gonna take some time for it to grow on some people, and we're gonna have to see it around for a while. And some people, honestly, I feel like are just bandwagon people also. They see other people kind of jumping on this thing and mocking it, so they do it too without really taking a look and forming their own opinion about it. But I'm a fan. I mean, riding it, sitting on it, to me, it feels like a cool bike. It looks cool. I think we would all be being dishonest if we didn't say, like, that is kind of part of the thing for motorcycling. It's not the whole thing, and it's not important at all, actually. But I mean, having ridden so many models of Harley Davidson, and then, a lot of them stock for these reviews, like, I think about that when I'm just cruising around on a stock Street Glide or Road Glide or Street Bob or whatever. I feel like in my head, people are like, why would you not put exhaust on there? Why would you not do this? They don't know me. They don't know the situation. A lot of people, Harley on this tank, a lot of people hear this red light may not even believe this is a Harley. They're like, that's not, wait, what is that thing? I guess you'd have to really know Harley to know, or to even care or pay attention. See, that's just where my mind goes. I highly doubt anyone is even paying any attention to me right now, but anyway, I would love to take this thing on the interstate, but I just feel like that's a bad idea. I think staying here in traffic is going to kind of keep us where we need to be. So this bike comes in black, white, and I believe the crimson red color. Timms of Augusta also got their Sportster S. They got it a day before, and I was planning on, if Timms wasn't going to get theirs for a couple days, I was going to go down to Augusta, Georgia, and make a video with the one that they got. Fortunately, we got one, but I am curious to see some of those other colors. I like the black. It's hard to beat a black Harley, but I think I would like the white as well. I like the Lowrider S a lot in crimson, so maybe I would like this bike in the crimson red. I would just need to see it. This thing rides smooth, guys. Like, it's smooth. The suspension feels great. Obviously, we've harped on the power a million times. It's got tons of power, but the handling feels really good too. This is a really light feeling bike. It's barely over 500 pounds, which is light for a Harley Davidson. Feels super nimble. Hopefully I get a chance to ride one of these again. Let me know your thoughts, guys, on this bike. Do you like it? Would you consider getting one? As always, thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe if you're not already. Catch you on the next one, guys.